Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Pleasure Elixir. I am so excited to have you here. My name is Jess Tomlinson, your Radiant Self-Care Coach. And yeah, we're here. You made it for the Pleasure Elixir, essential self-care journey for busy career-driven women like yourself. So, before we get started, I would love to hear from you guys. There is, or should be, a little chat box over on the side of your screen next to my face. And I would love for you to just speak your name into that chat box, say who you are, and then where you live. I find this is a really good way to kind of break the ice. I know you probably had a super crazy day like I did. I had 4 back-to-back meetings. I don't even think I got to eat lunch until 2, but I brought like a nourishing lunch to take care of my self-care. So I'm so happy that I prepared and did that for myself. So like me, you might have had a crazy long day, and I just want to honor that you made it. You made it here tonight on this webinar to spend a delicious, delectable hour with yours truly. And I know you're not going to regret that you showed up. So yay. So don't be shy. Introduce yourself. I'm just going to check the chat box right now. And I see that, yay, several of you have made it. Very cool. And I see Christiana is here, Las Vegas. Hi, Christiana. Faith in London, Canada. Awesome. Welcome, Faith. And then I should mention, you probably see Kelly in the chat box. Kelly is a member of my team, so she is so awesome, and she's going to be here supporting you in the chat box, just cheering you on, encouraging you to answer my questions. I'm a very interactive teacher. I don't even really like to call myself a teacher, but this is a free training, so I'm going to be teaching you lots of juicy stuff tonight. Denise in Atlanta, awesome. Welcome, Denise. So yes, as you guys roll in, I know some of you might be getting in a little bit late, but please just introduce yourself. Don't be shy. This is a place to connect. We're talking about pleasure, right? Tonight's theme of the webinar is going from push, which is probably 90% of all of our days, and then pleasure. That's really what this webinar is all about. So I invite you. Hula, awesome. Welcome, Hula. So great to see you. Charlotte, North Carolina is where Hula lives. Crystal from Vegas. Very cool. Thank you all for being here. It just warms my heart to see you on this webinar. So while you're introducing yourself, and before I tell you a little about me, I just want to give you a little bit of background of where this whole webinar, based all around the topic of pleasure, I never would have guessed this, came from. So as you guys may or may not know, I about a month and a half ago now got back from taking a fabulous group of women to the beautiful island of Bali on a retreat. And while I was there, I really soaked in this element of pleasure and what it feels like and what it means to us as women, and most importantly, how we do not practice pleasure. And yes, it's a practice. It takes practice because as little girls, pretty much when we first come out of the womb, most of us are unfortunately taught that pleasure is bad, that it is selfish. And so what do? We put pleasure in the corner and we stuff her away. And unfortunately, we risk losing her when we do that in our adult lives. And so many of us have come to this place. And maybe if you've shown up on this webinar, you're like, yeah, Jess, I totally resonate. Like, what the hell is pleasure and where has it gone for me? And so I have been noticing these little elements of pleasure in my own life that have been bubbling up. I've had a lot of change recently. And so I was inspired to talk about pleasure and to teach you guys some of the tricks that I've been implementing in my own self-care plan. So that's what this webinar tonight is all about. Super excited to dive in because we've got a lot of content. I'm going to invite you, if you are having a moment where you're like, I I should be like doing this. I should be doing the dishes. I should go to bed even. Now, granted, if you're very tired, I give you permission, go to bed. This is being recorded. But if there is a sparkle in your heart that says, pleasure, yes, I want this, I invite you to hang with me. This is going to be a power hour of juiciness. And I promise you won't regret it. So stay with me, even through maybe all kind of like a few difficult topics that I might be touching. I promise you're going to get amazing information from this webinar. So, all right, don't mind me. One of my techniques, I was going to say tactics, but I merged it with techniques, is that going from push to pleasure for me. Tonight, I'm practicing it myself because I have so much information to share with you guys, and see I have like highlights and all this other stuff that I give myself permission to not push and try to memorize all of it, but to actually print it out and allow myself to just tell you guys that I'm going to look down at my notes every once in a while because I don't want to forget all of this good information to share with you. I don't want to leave out a juicy detail. So I see we got some new people on the webinar. Yay! Welcome everybody. Kim, aloha from Las Vegas. I love it. Aloha from Las Vegas. Love Hawaii. So if you've just joined us, again, introduce yourself in the chat box over next to my face. It might be that side on your guys' screen, or it might be the other side. I'm not sure. It's on this one on my screen. All right, so the way that this webinar is going to go is I'm going to describe a little bit first on this series that you signed up for, because you might not even realize the Pleasure Elixir is actually a series of webinars. And then I'm going to share with you a little bit about a program that I'm actually so enthused to be sharing with you tonight, because many of you jumped on this call really desiring pleasure. And by the end of this webinar, even though we have 2 more webinars left, you're going to be wanting more. And so I asked myself, what can I do here to really serve these women while pleasure is top of mind? And it's top of mind for a lot of women right now, which is, you know, it's obvious from all of you who showed up on this call. So just know that I'm going to be offering an opportunity that some of you might want to take advantage of. So I just want to be transparent in that. And then I'm going to introduce myself. I'm going to show you a few little pictures, tell you about my story, why the heck I'm so passionate about this self-care stuff. And then we're going to get into 3 tips that are actionable items, meaning you can implement them right now in order to go from push to pleasure in your own life. And then that'll be it. I'll invite some of you to take the next step for your own pleasure, for your own self-care, and we'll wrap it up. So let's not delay anymore. How you guys feel about that? Also, okay, before we get started, I'm looking at my drink in front of me. I'm not sure if you guys saw the pleasure challenge for this webinar tonight was to create your own pleasure elixir, and I gave you a little recipe of what you can make. So if you brought it to the webinar, kudos to you. Cheers, chin chin, or as I learned in Prague, na zdraví. It's the only phrase I learned in Prague. So just in case you're curious, if you didn't see this, this concoction is champagne. It is a little bit of pomegranate juice. I like pomegranate juice because it's not too sweet, it's kind of tangy. And then I put a little sprig of mint in there as well. So cheers to you ladies who brought your alcoholic or non-alcoholic drink. Let's get this pleasure party started. Oh, and if you hop on over to my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/legit love revolution. I would love to see you post a picture underneath my photo of your own pleasure elixir drink on this webinar. So if you want to pop over there and do that, don't leave the webinar, but maybe just do it from your phone while you're watching this. So I'm going to take intermittent drinks of my own pleasure elixir during this webinar. Don't mind me. All right, so let's get started. First, what is this whole pleasure elixir 3-part webinar? So as I mentioned, it is a sensual self-care journey for busy, career-driven women like you. Tonight, we are talking about the topic from push to pleasure. Next Wednesday, we are covering shed the shoulds, and then, which is like my favorite topic. And then the Wednesday after that, which is July 8th, we will be talking about how to fire up your desires so you can fuel your big, meaningful dream in the world. Pretty deep stuff. So I invite you to attend live all 3 webinars. They're all going to benefit you even more while you're live, and you can type in some questions for me and interact with the women on this call. Again, they will be recorded if for some reason you can't miss it, so don't worry about that. All right, so that is the overview of the Pleasure Elixir and what you are in for. And so let's hop right in. Let me introduce myself and who the heck I am. So I'm going to screen share with you guys. So bear with me. All right, so you guys should be able to present to everyone. Should be able to see my screen now. And I'm just going to take you through a little slideshow on who the heck I am. All right, so here I am. I am Jess. I'm so excited to have you with me, like I said, and I am your Radiant Self-Care Coach. So now what does that mean? Self-care, huh? Say what? I know this is how I felt more than 5 years ago now when I began my self-care journey. I had no idea actually that what I was beginning to practice that was changing my life was actually self-care. So most of us think of traditional me time as self-care, right? And it's great. Traditional me time, I am an advocate for. So there's me getting a mani-pedi. There's me on the couch in my bathrobe on my period, eating peanut butter out of the jar. How many of you have done that? I'm just curious. We do it, right? So that is traditional me time. But what I'm talking about is so much more. It's so much more, ladies, than traditional me time. Radiant self-care is what I believe, this deep, deep, deserving worthiness for each of us as women to feel, look, and live radiantly. Okay? So that's what I do. I support busy women like you who are stressed out to feel massively less stressed, wildly expressed, and to do it all. I'm so passionate about encouraging women that they can do it all. And that is really what living radiantly is all about. And more importantly, not feeling guilty about it. So you deserve to not only feel radiant and live radiantly, but to travel, right? Since I've begun this self-care journey, I've gifted myself these trips because it's my passion. It's what makes me feel radiant. So I've gone to Peru, I've gone to France, I've gone to Italy, I've gone to Prague, and most recently, which I need to add to this list, I've gone to Bali. And you deserve to express yourself. So for me, self-expression looks like getting up on stage in that tiny little bikini that I was invited to do. Super scary, by the way. No, I'm not a model, and no, I had never done any kind of modeling before, but my friend in LA just happened to be coordinating this fashion show and said, "Hey, Jess, you're in great shape." I was running at the time. Why don't you be part of this fashion show? I'm like, "Oh yeah, that sounds great." She said, "Oh, by the way, it's like little tiny string bikinis." So super, super scary, you guys. And on top of it, I didn't bring the right shoes because I didn't know you're supposed to have like hooker shoes to walk down a runway. So I'm wearing like businessy heels. And then on top of that, I was the only one who'd never been a model, and they forced me out on stage first. So, but what is awesome is me doing this was really stepping into my own radiance, my own self-expression. And I'm so happy that I did it because it was a whole new level of being seen for me. You deserve to play and experience adventure like this, whatever that looks like for you. The biggest picture on this screen that you can see is me actually doing something for the first time that was really scary, which was I did a poetry movement piece That's my event, Sensory Explosion, which was a community event that I organized here in Las Vegas twice, and that was super successful. And that was really scary. I didn't want to do it. I was shaking the entire time, but I knew that I had to, because that was me expressing myself, and that's what felt pleasurable. You also deserve, right? We're talking about pleasure tonight. You deserve to be sexy. Here is me. This was something that I had been dying to do, this mermaid photo shoot, during my solo bliss trip is what I called it. It was my first vacation that I ever took by myself, and obviously, or maybe not obviously, but this was in Hawaii. You deserve to be sexy. You also deserve to feel peace. Peace, you guys. My own journey has been such a whirlwind of not being able to come to that place of peace. And I'm so happy to report that I've been able to dive in underneath this surface of push, and what we think self-care is supposed to be, and really get to the bottom of how do you find this lasting peace in your life. And to be loved deeply. We all want to be loved, right? This is my amazing boyfriend, Harnick. He actually lives in San Francisco. I live in Las Vegas. So doing the whole long distance thing has been really rough, but we met on New Year's of this year, and he's just been such an angel in my life. Kind of a really funny story where we both had other plans, and I showed up literally with no makeup, looking horrible, and my hair wasn't done. I didn't wear a bra to this New Year's. It was actually a gong meditation, so I was like, great, I don't have to get ready. And lo and behold, of course, the man of my dreams still saw my radiance. And you deserve to transform the world. So for the past 3 years, I've been co-organizing a TEDx Women event because I am so passionate about women expressing themselves. And, you know, whether for you that means stepping on stage or not, that's fine either way. You don't have to be on stage to express yourself. It can be in any kind of form that feels radiant and pleasurable to you. But it wasn't always like this for me. It was more like this picture of me crazy and stressed out, and this beautiful life that I show you of all these pictures where I look so radiant and happy. Like I mentioned, it's been a struggle. And for me, what happened was, you know, kind of what most people in this coaching field or spiritual realm refer to as like the perfect storm, right? I like to call it my cosmic bitch slap, because that's what it felt like. It hurt more than a storm, okay? And this was in 2008. I just within the period of only 2 months, barely, I had a major surgery where I had a rib removed, which is a whole other story. I had a boyfriend who I'd been dating for almost 3 years not show up for Christmas to be with my family, even though he bought a plane ticket. So you can imagine how devastating that was. I quit my job. I started a new job. I moved houses in Las Vegas, and then I met a new guy. And what I noticed is all of this was really, like I said, a cosmic bitch slap from the universe, from God, whatever you believe, telling me, you need to wake up, Jess. Something's not right. And we are going to scream and shout until you realize it. And all of those things combined, maybe you've gone through something like this in your own life, set me on the path to self-care. And I didn't really know what I was doing at first, but I began to dabble in self-care. And all of a sudden I realized that the stomach pains that I'd had for my entire life since I was a little kid, that literally felt like 1,000 knives stabbing in my belly and would make me throw up, they just one day magically went away. And, you know, I'd had like an endoscopy and gone to gastrointestinal doctors, and they're like, we don't know. We don't know what's wrong with you. We can't tell. Well, guess what? It was emotional. And so when I began practicing self-care, radiant self-care, lo and behold, those emotional pains of the stressful life that I was living went away. So here, oh, I should mention, by the way, going back to this was actually a photo shoot that was super fun. I was featured as one of Las Vegas' top 5 most empowered women or female entrepreneurs in Luxury Las Vegas magazine. So that was pretty awesome. And then here's a picture of me at my lowest. Yeah, this was me in 2009 wearing an I Survived t-shirt. How ironic, right? So this is just a reflection of where I've come from. And now here's a photo of me from Bali. And this is me in my radiance. So that's a little bit about me. Maybe you can relate to a similar story. And I just want to invite you to know that you are not alone in this moment. And tonight we're going to begin talking about 3 ways that you can go from push to pleasure so that you can start implementing this radiant self-care in your own life. All right, so I'm going to unscreen share. We will come back to that presentation, stop screen sharing, and now I should be back. All right. So before we dive in to the 3 tips that I have for you to go from push to pleasure, I want to invite us to have a little bit of an engagement conversation right now in the chat box. So I'm curious, what does push mean to you when you hear the word push? And what does pleasure mean to you when you hear the word pleasure? So 2 words. What does push mean to you? What does pleasure mean to you? Type them real quick into the chat box so we can see everybody's response. Don't be shy. Let's really get this conversation going. I wrote down a list in my call notes of what push feels like to me and what pleasure feels like to me. So I'm really curious what you guys think. So I'm gonna let you guys start to chitty chat over in the chat box. And we'll see where it goes from there. And there's a little bit of delay on video, so don't mind me as I'm still talking and we're probably already over this part. I'm just going to take a sip of my pleasure elixir. All right, push means forcing. Yes. Oh, somebody else said forcing. We're on to something here. Forcing versus enjoyable. Wow. Forcing. Yeah. Pleasure means allowing. Beautiful. Yeah, it does. I love this. You know, push, it's like literally like the physical, you imagine just like pushing somebody or punching somebody, right? It's like that whole like physical force. Push equals deadlines. Oh, Christiana, I'm so with you on that, right? Like part of being a career-driven, busy woman is we got those deadlines to meet, right? It's like do or die, go, go, go. And God, that just, I know one of the words that I wrote for push is like heavy. I can just feel it in my body as we're talking about this. It just hurts my shoulders. Push equals working hard in all aspects of my life. Yes, working hard in a way that it's like we glorify that term, right? Like work hard. But the reality is when you're in your pleasure, things are easy. Like it might still be work, but working hard in all aspects, just totally heavy. I love that. Christiana. I'm going to pronounce your name wrong. Nehahira? I'm sorry if I totally butchered that. Beautiful name if that's what it is. Faith. Thank you. Christiana, pleasure equals something I love, like photography. Yeah, that like visual element, right? I think of beauty when I think of pleasure. I think what I put, I'll just start to name off some of my things that I listed out. Burnout, sick, tired, unmotivated, slave to the man. And that can mean the literal man, or that can mean like, you know, corporate America, as I like to refer to it. Uninspired, heavy, hard. Kim, push equals demands and pleasure is my inner harmony. Oh, Wow. That's beautiful, Ken. Pleasure is my inner harmony. For me, push translates to hard on myself. Oh yeah, sister, we're going to be talking about that tonight. Pleasure translates to treating myself with care. So beautiful. Awesome. So if you guys have stuff that comes up, please keep on posting. I'm going to read off what pleasure means to me. So I just read off what push means. Pleasure, I wrote down easy, joyful, inspiring, light, energizing. I'm just like, I'm a totally different person when I talk about these words. Healthy, motivated, acting by choice. For me, push translates to hard on myself. Pleasure translates to treating myself with care. That's beautiful. Can't see who said that yet because this chat box is kind of crazy for me. But hopefully I'll be able to acknowledge you. Beautiful. Awesome, ladies. All right. So let's dive in because like I said, we got a lot to cover tonight. Let's dive in to these 3 tips that I want to give you. And really they're more than tips. I have a really hard time just kind of like giving like, do this, do that, because I believe each of us as women are so unique. And each of us, you know, pleasure means something different and self-care means something different. And so really one of my strengths as a coach is to get under the hood of your soul and really help you find that inner radiance. What is that inner pleasure, right? That each of us has this unique divine calling inside of us. And that's really what drives our pleasure. So I just want to honor and acknowledge each of us and that we are individuals tonight. So take what's useful and leave behind what's not. Okay? Sound good? All right. Before we jump into these 3 tips, take a sip. And if you haven't posted your picture of your pleasure elixir, drink whatever you're drinking, tea, wine, water, post it over at my Facebook page, facebook.com/legit love revolution. I think Kelly posted that somewhere in the comments too, so you can easily access it. All right, you guys ready? Number 1, fall in love with your feminine. Fall in love with your feminine. Now, what the heck do I mean by that? So before we can even really get into this conversation, this tip, I really want to be clear because I know some of you might be new to this conversation. I remember when I first heard like feminine, masculine, you know, what my mind automatically jumped to was what I knew, which was male and female. Not necessarily the case. Just because we're female, it doesn't mean we're only feminine. Females are masculine and feminine, and then males are both as well. So I just want to be clear that masculine is it's predominantly a male energy, but what it means is the ability to drive on, to do, right? It really is that push. And men specifically are very good at this. And women, us women who are in corporate America, or Canada or wherever you live across the world, are really good at this as well. The difference between masculine and feminine is the being. So masculine is the doing, feminine is the being. So really what that means is just allowing, flowing. It's easy, right? So it's the difference between push and pleasure. And neither is bad. They're just different, and there's a time and place for each. So what I encourage you to do as a busy, career-driven woman is to fall in love with your feminine. Why? Because more than likely you're completely out of touch for the most part with your feminine. And I say that because I know how it is. I am still a woman, even though I do this coaching and take women on retreats and support women in their self-care. I am still a woman in corporate America. I work a full job. So when I said I had 4 back-to-back meetings today, it was in an office working for a corporation, not for myself. And so I totally get where women are coming from when they're completely stressed out and they're doing. So the importance, the reason why falling in love with your feminine is important is because it allows us to get back in touch with what is important. And what I mean by that is when we're so busy doing, pushing, we're completely outside of what our needs and desires are, because we almost can't be, right? When you're pushing, it's like, you got to get to this project, you got to get to deadlines, you got to get, got to do this, got to do that, got to get this thing out the door, got to get this person to sign this thing, got to go to this meeting, got to take care of the kids, got to take care of the boyfriend, the family, the dogs. Like, there's so much to do that we get outside of tapping back into our feminine, which is the being. Okay, so what I really want to encourage you to do is to fall in love with your feminine. So now, again, what do I mean by that? What I mean is starting to kind of open up to the idea of embracing, like, what does feminine even mean to me? We went back and forth on what pleasure means to you. And I encourage you that whatever you answered for your definition of pleasure, that is your feminine. That's what feels good to you. And what happens when we don't tap back into that pleasure and the femininity in us is that we get stressed out. We get burnt out. We become completely non-self-aware of the pains in our body, the aches. We get sick. And it's this whole stress-related, headache-inducing, stomach pain creating, for me, cycle that is hard to take ourselves out of. So what can we do to fall in love with our feminine? My tip for you to begin implementing this right away is to look at what your answer was for when we said pleasure. What does pleasure feel like? And to implement that maybe in how you decorate your desk at work. Bring in this pleasurable aspect so that the place that you feel most masculine, for me, it's at work in corporate, you are incorporating ways that you can feel delicious and pleasure in this atmosphere that is so push and masculine driven, that masculine energy. And so for me, what I've done is I've put up like an inspirational painting. I brought in a really pretty mug. So it's not just like, one of those leftover used mugs. Like, it's a really pretty mug that I consciously purchased to fall in love with my feminine at work. And I have a little stash of tea. Traditional medicinals is my favorite. It's a really clean, delicious, pure tea. But they have all sorts of yummy flavors. Like, incorporate something at your desk in this masculine atmosphere that feels feminine. Okay, that is how you can begin falling in love with your feminine. And what will happen is you'll start to notice that transition of like the push at work that sometimes is, I get it, like inescapable. You'll start to notice like your meetings are a little more pleasurable. You're a little bit more chilled out. You're not taking so much stress home. And that's a big thing. When we don't practice this falling in love with our feminine, more importantly, we take this feeling of push home. I cannot tell you, it broke my heart the other day when I witnessed one of my coworkers. She takes work home almost every single night, and she has 2 young kids, and she's up really late, and she's working. And it's like, everything inside of me just, wants to help her. So I'm always giving her tips and advice on like, maybe put your computer in the next room. Don't even bring it home, actually, turn off your phone for just maybe a couple hours. Like, I promise if somebody really needs you and something devastating happens, they will find a way to reach you. So just really falling in love with your feminine at work, beginning to incorporate those pleasurable aspects so that you don't bring all of the masculine energy home when all you really want to do is spend time with your loved ones, or maybe your fur babies like me, since Harnick, my boyfriend, is in San Francisco. So I hope that really explains things. Let me give you an example of a client that I actually worked with who was so push, do, really busy, like high-strung personality when I came to her. And she's energetic, which is great. You know, I'm super energetic, so I tend to attract those kind of clients. But what she came to me for was to tap back in to that feminine, that pleasure inside of her that was longing to come out. She was getting in a lot of fights with her husband, preparing like these massive elaborate meals every Sunday that was taking up her whole day, and was feeling really like not good about it. And so what we ended up doing while I was working with her was, you know, I just really asked her, like, what would feel pleasurable? What would feel good to you? And what came to her is she's an artist. She wanted to get back into practicing her art. And so she dedicated our time together, our coaching time, to really loving up and putting pleasure into her her like art room at home, like actually like starting to use it. And she started to draw and drew me this beautiful like butterfly sketch. And she's just such an amazing woman. She started going on bike rides and just feeling really, really yummy. So do you see where when you start to really tap into that feminine pleasure, the push slowly starts to kind of melt away? So what can you do to start to fall in love with your feminine? All right, so that's number one. Let's move. I'm just going to go to my notes real quick. Don't mind me. Let's move to number two. All right. Number two is pepper your life with pleasure. Pepper your life with pleasure. Okay, I got to take a sip before I even get to this one, because this one is really exciting for me. It's like one of my favorites. By the way, let me know if you guys get a sec what you thought about falling in love with your feminine. If you had any kind of like ahas around that, I'd love to hear in the chat box. All right, pepper your life with pleasure. What do I mean by this? What I mean by pepper your life with pleasure is start to incorporate pleasure in all aspects of your life, especially, and this is key, especially the ones that are not so pleasurable. So this kind of trickles down from, you know, falling in love with your feminine. So like we're incorporating at work, the places where you feel more masculine, the feminine aspects. So now how can you even, it's kind of like a web, right? Like weaving this web. How can you even more pepper your life with pleasure, especially the aspects that aren't so pleasurable? So now why this is so important is because especially those moments and those things that are not so pleasurable in your life, like doing the dishes or cleaning or, you know, like just even doing work sometimes, right? Like you're at the office and you're like, I just want to get the hell out of here. It's just can feel not fun. And so why this is so important is a lot of times those things that don't feel so fun in our lives, we try to make them more complicated than they really are. Or we keep on pushing, which is complicated in itself. And so this thing that we don't want to do, we're just pushing through and we're doing it and we're getting it done and we're angry when we're doing it and we're like, why am I doing this? And what that does is when we don't pay attention to peppering our life with pleasure and we just push on through, what that does is we will start to resent these things in our life. And so it's like carrying this heavy weight on your shoulders, this emotional baggage, this mental space of like, this stuff sucks. And like, we start to bring that vibe into our lives, and it affects the way that our relationship with ourselves, you know, how we feel about ourselves. And we might start to get like really like agitated, and then we start taking that out on the people that we love. And I know you all on this call are super loving women. And so it's so important to not incorporate pleasure into those aspects of your life, especially the ones that are unpleasurable, okay? So I'm just gonna check my notes really quick because this one's a big one. So yeah, I mean, it can give us everything from stress to headaches and anxiety, all that mental clutter, and then we try to punish ourselves, like, why aren't we getting this thing done over here? You know, maybe it's like, we want to clean out our closet and we really want to do that. Like, that's in our pleasure, but it feels like a lot of work. And so what do? We resist it and we start to think about it. And it's just like emotional energy that weighs us down. And so the benefit of actually peppering our life with pleasure is that we get to turn those things that are like lemons into lemonade. And trust me, I know you're thinking, okay, there's no way, Jess, to make cleaning the bathroom feel fun. But I promise you, here is what I do, and here's my tip for you. You're gonna wanna write it down because it seems so simple, but it's so worth it. Is I pour myself a glass of wine, no joke, when I'm cleaning. I pump up the music. Usually it's like something really energetic, like Just Stone, so I can like get my groove on. And I run around the house and I clean, and I kind of like, you know, whatever I want to clean, I clean. If I don't want to clean the toilet today, cool. But when I feel that spark of inspiration to pepper, you know, the pleasure into the cleaning, like that's what actually helps me find enjoyment in these things that are not so fun. Okay, so let me give you an even more specific example. I had a client who, she was really struggling during our coaching. She wanted to rewrite her resume. So like push, right? Like, who wants to actually rewrite their resume? Not many people. I know for me, it feels like a ton of work. And so what I encouraged her, because she was resisting, right? It was that mental clutter, the anxiety of doing it, the like, it doesn't feel like fun. It doesn't feel pleasurable. What was her truth is she really did want to redo her resume because she wanted to find a different job that would ultimately bring her more into her pleasure. So what I asked her is like, how can you make rewriting your resume the most pleasurable possible? How can you make this thing that does not feel pleasurable, it feels like push, how can you pepper it with a little bit of pleasure? And you know, I don't actually know what she did, but I do know she told me that she completely left that conversation, was so inspired, was so lit up that she totally like knocked it out, was happy about it, was inspired, was up until like 2 a.m. redoing her resume and was like enthusiastic about it because she saw the pleasure in it. And on top of that, she got some really good nookie with her husband. And she actually came back and told me, she's like, Jess, my husband said I can coach with you anytime or hang out with you anytime because your coaching tonight, like, whoa, made a huge difference in our sexy time. So you can see where these things start to like weave themselves into your life, right? Okay, so my tip for you is to actually practice the pleasure mantra. So this is a way where you can infuse pleasure easily into things that do not feel so pleasurable. So the next time that you have a big report to do, you need to rewrite your resume, you want to clean the house, but it just feels like bleh, like crap, right? Like the things are not pleasurable. I don't know if you guys saw this, but it's probably backwards on the screen. But today I shared on my email list this pleasure mantra. And these are cards that I created for the women in Bali that are so powerful. So even me sharing this right now feels like really sacred. But it says, I seek to fulfill my desire with a passion that fuels my fire. So my tip for you is that you can incorporate this pleasure mantra into your life at any moment that something feels kind of crappy. Okay? And what it will do is really begin to set your mindset to move from push into pleasure. And you can ask yourself that question after you say, I seek to fulfill my desire with a passion that fuels my fire. And say, how can I make this thing that I'm doing more pleasurable? And I promise you the answer will come. And if the answer doesn't come, I have a surprise for you guys. I also mentioned this on my email today, that everybody joining tonight would get to hear what pleasure ritual I led the women through in Bali. So I'm going to share with you right now what I did. And you can totally practice this on your own, get a partner to practice with you. I had them all close their eyes and really just get present to their body. And what I did is I incorporated all of their different senses. So if you're familiar with yoga, this is like yoga nidra. It's like body presence, body awareness, right? So, but for me, what I do with my radiant self-care coaching is being able to tap into that pleasure is all about our senses for me. So our smell, our sight, our hearing, our touch, our taste. So what we did in Bali is I went around and all the women had their eyes closed and I tickled them with a feather. And so they got present to touch. I put jasmine oil under their nose and also dabbed a little bit on their neck too. They got to eat with their eyes closed a little tiny piece of dark raspberry chocolate, some of my favorite. And then they got to listen to the birds. I also rang little Tibetan bells, got really present to that. And then when they opened their eyes, they got to really soak in the beautiful scenery of Bali. So this is something that you can do in your own life. Tweak it as you wish. Use it exactly as I told you. But this is a way that you can always, always pepper pleasure into your life. All right. So that's number 2. We're moving on to number 3. I'm not sure if anybody has, nope, nobody has written any like takeaways. Oh, Niaria. Beautiful. Thank you for correcting me on your name. Awesome. So keep the chat up. If you guys have like a thought, you never know what will resonate with other women. So that's what this webinar is all about, is us coming together in pleasure and really discovering how we can go from push to pleasure in our own lives, and more importantly, how it can change your life. I think that's what I'm so passionate about too right now, is just really showing women why it matters, because a lot of us can just kind of brush it up, but I know you guys know it matters because you're here on this webinar with me. So yay. All right, so number 3 for how you can go from push to pleasure. I'm just going to take a quick sip of my drink. And I appreciate you guys hanging with me until the very end. We're probably going to go a little over. Just want to be transparent with that. So, oh, awesome. Kelly just added the link. Cool. So yeah, so just hang with me. I promise you guys, I have something super special and sacred to share. So I'm really excited to share it with you. So hang on with me to learn more about this new program. All right, so number 3. Be good enough. All right. So what does this mean? Be good enough. What I mean by this is we get so caught up in the do, right? The push, that oftentimes we think that by just being and sitting down for a second, that we're not good enough. That in order to be successful and in order to be worthy and deserving and really receive love in our lives, that we need to be proving ourselves. So we think, okay, Jess, you might be asking this yourself, like, if I move from this push into pleasure, like, isn't my life going to crumble? Won't nothing get done? And it's not about that, right? It's like number 2, the tip number 2, peppering pleasure into all aspects of your life, so that it's not that we have to slow down. It's that when you do take those sacred moments of self-care to slow down, you are going to be so much better off because you're refilling your cup. You are fueling your life force by just being and allowing your body to rest. So what I mean, again, by be and be good enough is allowing yourself to take those moments of rest and to, at the same time, know that by you resting, you are actually totally benefiting yourself just as equally as you would be if you were doing something, feeling productive. The problem is that society has taught us that by being and sitting around, that is doing nothing. Well, I beg to differ. If you are allowing your body rest, do you know how much that is doing for your health? What happens when we rest and we just allow ourselves to be with no pressure and no pushing, our body goes into the relaxation response. And that is our natural healing response. So for me, I haven't been sick in 3 years. I got a little cough the other week, which I was like, oh God, I'm getting sick. And yeah, that probably was like a little something that I got, but that went away really quickly because I have been able to take such good care of myself through this self-care. And it still blows my mind that I haven't got sick. I don't take any medications. I only use essential oils. Like I'm not even on birth control. I haven't taken any pain meds, nothing. And so this whole state of being, trust me when I say that it helps bulletproof your health. And that's something that this program that I'm going to share with you is all about. It's part of the program content is me sharing how I've been able to implement this state of pleasure, this state of radiant self-care that has allowed me to be this like healthy, thriving body. And here's the key. I am doing more, but doing less at the same time. Does that make sense? So I am creating more things in the world. My own passions are being shown more in the world. People look at me and they're like, my God, how do you work like a full-time job and you're doing your coaching and you went on a retreat and you have time for your self-care and you have this new boyfriend that you're giving attention to, and then I have my 2 little doggies. I know they're nothing like children mothers, but still I have my dogs. And so what's interesting is before, in my old kind of corporate mindset and my past jobs where I was up really late and like working and just stressing myself out, like I was, getting stuff done, but it didn't feel good. It was push. So now that I've been able to come to a place where I allow myself to be and to fill up my own cup, when I come to those moments of I want to create things in the world, I'm moving from pleasure, from inspiration, bringing my own radiance into the world at a higher rate than I was before, because before I was just a constant push. And what happens when you're a constant push? You get run down and then you get sick, right? So this is be and be good enough. So my tip is for you, I'm just going to look at my notes really quick, to say another mantra, which is another Bali mantra, and it's all about flow. So the mantra is, and I created this in Hawaii, which is perfect because Hawaii is all about flow, right? There's no one, wait, let me read it. I always mess this up. Okay, there's nowhere to go. There's no one to be, just perfectly here, perfectly me. There's nowhere to go. There's no one to be, just perfectly here, perfectly me. Okay, so that mantra is really important when you're feeling like, I should be doing something, right? And that's what we're going to talk about next week is shedding the shoulds. I should be doing something. I should, like get up from the couch right now. And what's interesting is we don't allow ourselves to be because we think that doing is better than being, okay? Masculine is better than being feminine. And that's not the case. Yes, we need both again, but tapping into that femininity and allowing yourself to be will benefit your health, your relationships. It will make you less stressed, bulletproof your body so that you don't get sick like I've been able to achieve. Like there's just some interesting layers here, you guys, that are really important to note. So you can say that mantra. And another thing that I encourage you to do is just to look at yourself as a child, to really like love yourself when you're having those moments of like, I should be doing something and like, I'm not good enough and I need to prove myself to the world. Really knowing that when you look at yourself through the eyes of a child, what do children do? They're non-judgmental, right? They're like, they couldn't care less if you're not doing anything. In fact, they're happy because you get to play with them and have fun. So I just want to share with you a client that actually had this experience, and it's actually one of the women who came on the retreat with me. I'm actually going to turn on a light because I noticed it's super dark in here. Okay. Maybe a little bit better. Yes. Yay, you can kind of see me. Oh, first, before we go on, Hula has to share. I talk aloud to myself. Well, on my walk in the forest earlier today, I actually said aloud to myself, I am both masculine and feminine, but mainly I'm masculine in my ways. I don't wake up and do my makeup and hair, and I've even been told I look boyish. Okay. Wow. That's a beautiful share, Hula. Thank you so much for being vulnerable. Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with like waking up and not putting on makeup or not doing our hair. But my guess is that you want to do these things, right? Like it feels good because it's fun. Yeah, so thank you. Thank you, Hula. I'm excited to see like implementing some of these things, this femininity in your own life, this pleasure. Somebody else said, I can't read the comment totally. Something about I will start embracing my feminine. Thanks for the divine providence, Jess. So welcome. Whoever said that, I'm sorry, I can't see who you are. All right, guys. So I was about ready to tell you again, hang with me. I know we're going a little bit over and I totally want to respect your time. I know you're busy, but I promise you don't want to miss this. I'm going to show a quick little video actually from one of the girls in Bali who I'm about ready to tell you about. So she had an experience that in Bali, she was really getting to be down on herself, like really hard for expressing her own pleasure, for being her true authentic self. And she was feeling like, like maybe the group wasn't really into this. And so she had a beautiful moment where we worked through that. And the truth was that everybody adored her because she was shining her radiant light, because she was in her like, divine pleasure and just totally like going with what she wanted to do. She was connected with the locals and like she was over here and she was making jokes. And she had a moment though where she felt like, oh, wait, I don't think people like this, which wasn't the truth. So we do this to ourselves, right? This is why we need ourselves as women to gather together, and we need support because we can't do this on our own. I didn't do this on my own. I have a coach who helps me, and I have not gotten to this level of pleasure in my own business and life without the support of other women, hands down. So that is totally a non-negotiable for me in my life, and I will continue to receive support and invest in it. So Brooke is her name, and she got to a place that was so beautiful where she absolutely was comfortable being 100% her. So right now I'm going to share that with you. I'm going to share a quick little video. So just hang on with me and I hope you enjoy. All right, everyone. What did you think of that video from Brooke? I hope that you guys really enjoyed that. I didn't get to hear the sound because Webinar Jam cuts off the sound on my end, but I watched it again last night and I just had tears in my eyes because that woman went through such a transformation through all of the work that we did through my program in Bali. And what I'm really excited to share with you, and I thank you so much for just hanging on this webinar with me, because this is a big deal to me. I'm really stepping into the next phase of supporting women in their pleasure. And how I'm doing this is through merging self-care and success. Because I believe that self-care has a bigger purpose than just feeling good about it. It has a bigger purpose in the sense that it's creating a foundation. I think of it as a launching pad for your bigger dreams and goals, your big meaningful dream in the world. You know, like we're all kind of sitting around and we have these things festering in us, these desires, these things that we know will bring us pleasure in our life, but we're too stuck in the push to allow them to unfold. And I really want to support women in that. And so I'm so happy. The reason why I showed you Brooke's video is because she made such a huge transition in Bali that she ended up taking the next step to join me in this program that I'm so excited to launch to you tonight. This is the first time that I'm sharing it outside of Bali. But you might be feeling in your heart, you know, like, okay, the things that I shared tonight, like moving more from your push self to your pleasure self, like tapping into this femininity, but still making a difference in the world, in your career. It's not that you have to slow down. It's just that there is a better way. You might be feeling like this resonates with you, or you might be feeling like it doesn't, and that's okay. But I really want to take a strong stand for all of you ladies tonight who are watching this, that if this is something that interests you, you know, just really, really plant that in your heart and know that it's okay to receive support around it. I know for me, it took me a long time to get to the place. I was actually just having a call with somebody today who she's like, you know, I should be able to do all this stuff on my own. And I was like, whoa, I totally used to think that myself too. But now I'm so glad that I have invested $19,000 total now in my own self-care through a coach who I've had for the past 9 months, Christina Marassi. She's absolutely fabulous, but she's been my anchor, my self-care, in being able to bring my big meaningful dream into the world. So if this is something that interests you, hang on for a sec, because I want to read you a letter, and then I want to share with you a little bit more about why you might be interested in this program. And before, if you're feeling like, oh my gosh, it's 8:07, I got to get off the line, totally cool. I respect your time. If you're feeling now like a little tingle in your heart, even if it's just a little bit, where you want to be able to merge self-care and success, bring these two together in a way that feels good, feels pleasurable, so you can stop pushing, email me. Just send me an email, and all that we'll do is explore. We'll jump on the phone together. I'll send you a link to my calendar, and we'll explore the possibility of you entering into this program. So my email is jessica@jessicatomlinson.com. Tomlinson is Tomlinson. So it's jessica@jessicatomlinson.com. Just send me a little email, and in the subject line, say, what do we want to say? Let's say pleasure. Why not? Pleasure. That's what we're after tonight, right? Pleasure. So I look forward to hearing from you. If you're still on the line, hang on with me, because you might be feeling like, oh, I want to learn a little bit more about this. And I have a special letter that I wrote for you that I'm hoping that you'll stay on the line and allow me to read to you right now. So I'm going to do that. Dear Radiant Woman, I see you. You are longing to understand your own power. The fire within you that is waiting with bated breath to be lit. If only you knew how. You're longing to make big moves in your life, but something is holding you back. You're not quite sure you can do it all. You've been hiding your bright light. Welcome to your coming out party. Woo! Here, you will reveal your radiance. It's time to celebrate you, discover your desires, wildly express yourself, and stop hiding. It's time for you to make a meaningful impact in your life and the world. Her Radiance Revealed, which is the program, is the place where you can have it all. I really believe that, you guys. And have it all with effortless ease. I know this is scary. It seems impossible. And not that long ago, I was right where you are, struggling to keep up, pushing to create meaning in my life. It never felt like my efforts were enough. Sure, I had some success, but it was hard. I was exhausted, completely burned out. Thinking back, I wish I would have known that there was a better way. The good news is, through several failures and a lot of struggle, I've figured out how to have success and self-care. But I didn't do it alone. I also had to make the decision whether to keep being a lone soldier, trekking down the same familiar path, or fall into the arms of women who have been there for me and knew the path to feminine flow. This is what I mean when I said I went out and I got professional self-care help by hiring my coach and investing in myself. I'm so glad I chose to receive support. So now the choice is yours. It's a big one. You might be thinking, I'm not ready. What if I fail? I'm not worthy of such success. All of these emotions are totally normal. I remember feeling them too. My question for you is, how long are you willing to wait and see? If you're ready, I'm here, waiting to take a loving, strong stand for you. Follow me to the flow, where your dreams can come true without sacrificing your self-care. I can't wait to support you. You are not alone. To your radiance, Jess. So here we are. It feels so good to share that with you guys because, like I said, this is the first time I'm sharing about this program. It's a piece of my heart. So I just have a few more things to share with you guys. Again, if that's resonating with you, if you're like, yes, Jess, I'm so ready to take the next step for my pleasure, for my self-care and my success, and to merge them together to create a strong foundation in your life, and you're ready to come out of hiding, you're ready to have your radiance revealed to the world and start being your authentic self, then I invite you. Send me an email, jessica@jessicatomlinson.com with the subject line pleasure. If you're still like, oh, I don't know, this sounds a little cool, but let me hear a little bit more, hang on with me because I'm going to screen share and show you just a little bit more. So give me one sec. Okay, so you should be able to see now. So here is the Her Radiance Revealed program. It feels so good, you guys. Like my body is just like, oh, and so much pleasure, even just talking about this, because yes, Bali was amazing and it was beautiful, but there's so much more that I want to help women with, that I want to support women like you in, and that is Her Radiance Revealed, which is a 6-month coming out party for big dreamers to discover their desires, wildly express themselves, and reach meaningful success through self-care. So you might be thinking, well, Jess, I don't even know what my desires are. And that's totally fine. That's what this program is for. Or you might be saying, I don't even know what it looks like to wildly express myself. I don't, have a big meaningful dream. Like I have my corporate career and, it's cool, but I know in my heart that there's something a little bit deeper. I'm just not sure what it is. That is actually totally okay. That's what this program is designed for, because I really, really am longing right now to help women through the process that I took myself through and that I eventually, thank goodness, got support in, which was discovering that I wanted to support women as a side hustle for, I'm working still full time. I've been working and doing my coaching business for the last 2 years at the same time. But I knew that coaching women on the side was my deeper passion. And that's what I wanted to do. And I wanted to help women figure out how to also have their big, meaningful dreams brought out into the world while still having self-care and still working their full-time job if that's what they desired most, if that's what brought them pleasure. And I know this sounds crazy, but I promise you, if I can do it, I'm not special. You can do it too. And so this 6-month program, I created it for 6 months because I wanted to take you all the way through the new year. There's something really interesting that I noticed that happens with us, and we push, right? It comes like January and we're like, oh, I got to set all these goals, push, push, push. And so I decided to run this program all the way through the end of January so that I could support women in really like letting that go, the push, and bringing their big, meaningful dreams out into the world. And that's what we're going to work on. This entire program is creating that foundation for your self-care so that you can start to express yourself and discover these desires, and then take those desires and form them into your bigger purpose on planet. And together we'll create your birth plan for your big, meaningful dream. And if that sounds really huge and scary, don't worry, because it will more than likely just be a piece of it. Like just starting to get your toe dipped in the water of what it feels like to do something bigger than yourself that you might right now be feeling like you can't do. But I know you can do it. And that's where the support comes in. That's where it's so beautiful to have this support to lean into. So this program is all about taking bold steps without the struggle. So here's these little monkeys, us in Bali, and they're so bold, right? But at the same time, they don't struggle. They play, and they're such a reflection. I remember sitting there with this little monkey dude on my shoulder and my lap, just thinking, wow, like they're so brave and ballsy, but at the same time, like it's so fun. And how can we as women really embody this? And I know I've done it in my own life, and I want to share with you how you can take these bold steps, and it doesn't have to be hard. It can be a feminine flow that's really can feel effortless, to be honest with you. Connect in sisterhood. So this is us in Bali. You guys, there is nothing like connecting in sisterhood. And this 6-month program, Her Radiance Revealed, you met Brooke, who was in the video. So she's already in the program. So you would be joining her, and then you'd be joining any of the other beautiful women who decide to step into this program with me under my mentorship. But also what's beautiful is the women like learn from each other. And I love this picture in Bali because this is us in our morning circle. And we took a lot of sacred time to connect because that's really what deepens us in our pleasure, in our purpose. We have a lot to learn from other women. And get a way to step out into the world. It's like, yeah, I got this support. I got this backup. I can do it. To wildly express yourself. So here's us dancing around the pool in our Bali villa. We had 3 villas, but this was my villa. Wildly expressing ourselves. It's so important, you guys. It's so important to begin to uncover that internal radiance, that pleasure in you that wants to like unleash itself and wants to be shown. And when you start to do this, this is where your desires start to reveal themselves. Because the more that you can move and just be in that feminine and really tap into your pleasure, the more that you're going to realize like the bigger things that you want to accomplish in the world and leave your mark on this planet before you die. I know that sounds really morbid, but it honestly helps me navigate my life, because the reality is eventually all of us are going to pass. So why not wildly express ourselves while we're here? And to get clear on your own desires, like I mentioned, if you're feeling like, I don't know, Jess, I don't even know what I want, that is perfect. That's what this program is all about. Or if maybe you have an inkling of what you want and you just want some clarity around it, that's perfect as well. This is such a beautiful shot of Sandy in Bali. I love how like this photo, we all had individual photo shoots. This photo just totally shows like her desire was to be topless. And I had the same kind of photo shoot where I was topless too, because that was my desire. And so just, you know, getting clear on what are your own desires. And then light your radiance and dreams on fire. If you're feeling like you have a bigger purpose, it's not a mistake that you're here on this webinar with me tonight. Like the planet is shifting, and us women are coming together to light our candles, to light our radiance on fire, to fuel our big meaningful dreams, and to discover how we can bring these dreams out into the world by getting yourself some support, because it can be a lot when you're blazing this trail by yourself. And trust me, as somebody who's been there, it's not fun. It is way more pleasurable to just invest in yourself and allow yourself to receive that support and know that you deserve it. And just because you need the support doesn't mean that you're incapable. If anything, it just means that you're open, and it shows how bad you want to live this full radiant life. All right, so now I'm going to show you a few photos, because part of the 6-month program is actually a 3-day retreat where you get away with me to the mountains with these other amazing, beautiful women. So this is one of the properties that I'm looking at right now. It's not for sure, but if we get enough women and this program is still open, or the program will be open, but if this property is still open and I'm able to book it, this is the one that I'm thinking we'll go with. So I wanted to show you a sneak peek because I was so excited. It's so beautiful. This is in Glacier National Park in Montana. And like, hello, this could be your view like out into these beautiful woods. And the reason why I chose this location, I was really feeling the woods, right? So I went to Bali. Bali's all about flow and like really just kind of like floating and following your flow, being whimsical. But what I wanted to set the intention for this program, Her Radiance Revealed, is because we're going to be really tapping into your desires and then creating them on the physical plane, like bringing those big meaningful dreams into the world. Creating takes very grounded energy. So the forest, the mountains represent that grounding. So I wanted to bring all the women in this program into this beautiful grounded forest. Here's some of the other photos from the property. So beautiful, right? So cute. Love the green walls. Just look at that. I mean, if that's not inspiration for creating your big meaningful dream, I don't know what is. All right, so we've come to the end, ladies. And again, I'm so sorry that we went over, but there was just so much to share, and I didn't want to short you of all the big, juicy information. So my final question to leave you with is, how are you sustaining your future? And how are you nurturing your big, meaningful dream alive into this world? And you can sustain your future if you're feeling like you need sustainability, you need a foundation to feel less stressed, to feel expressed, to come out of the closet as a big dreamer, to start, you know, as bringing this dream out into the world while still working full time, but it feels like too much. I invite you to get support around that if that's what your heart really desires and if you're ready. This isn't for everyone, but if you're feeling called and you're feeling ready, like you want to do this, you want support in creating that self-care foundation and still achieving success, email me, jessica@jessicatomlinson.com. Send me an email with the subject line pleasure, and I will respond tonight right away, and we can set up a call time in the next week and just explore, you know, is this a program that might be something that you're interested in that will support what your true pleasure is. So I'm going to stop screen sharing now and come back. All right, so I think we're back and awesome. We still got a few people on. the webinar. Gorgeous. So if you're still game to hang with me, tell me a takeaway. What are you taking away from this webinar? For those of you who are still remaining, I just really honor and love you and support you for being here. Yeah, and I, love is one of my favorite words. So just know that I use that a lot with all my coaching clients. I tell them I love you. And so just know, like, that's authentic when I say that I love you for showing up, because you're a reflection of me and this desire to go from push to pleasure. Yeah, so just tell me, like, what are you taking away? We covered the 3 tips. Fall in love with your feminine, pepper pleasure throughout your life, or what was it exactly? Let me use the correct language and grab my notes. Pepper your life with pleasure, and then be good enough. So remember those 3 tips that I gave you, and really, I encourage you to take those tips and implement them in your own life. But right now, yeah, if you have any feedback, any takeaways, one thing maybe that you're taking away from this webinar into your life to move from push to pleasure, I invite you to share that with me right now. And again, if you're feeling called, even just a little spark, no pressure, but just trust that, trust that pleasure in your heart, and send me an email, jessica@jessicatomlinson.com, so we can connect. I'd love to hear from you. Yeah, it's really a beautiful conversation that I have with women to really decide together if this is a program that might be something that could support you in your self-care and your desires. So I'll hang for a couple more minutes and just see if anybody comments in the chat box. Otherwise, for those of you who are feeling like you want to go, you've already hung with me for an hour and 26 minutes. I honor you. I love you. Have a pleasurable night, and I'll see you next week, next Wednesday, July 1st. We'll be back talking about shed the shoulds. So I can't wait to see you back here. Just check in if there are any comments. All right. Well, since nobody's comments are coming through, I never know, because this, there's oh, good, yay, comments. Girl with her flower in her hair. Ah, I hate this functionality for Webinar Jam. It's so hard to see. Oh, good, I can see. Every fiber of my being is pulling me to be and live this every day. My takeaway is my take back of my inner child, the girl with flowers in her hair. Yay, hula. Beautiful. What a beautiful description of, yes, going from push to pleasure. I love it. I love it. That's gorgeous. So beautiful. Great. So I'll just hang for a couple secs since I see hula got us started. Yeah, this pleasure stuff isn't easy. It's not easy, you guys. Again, society tells us that we're wrong, and that's what we're going to be talking about next week on the webinar, is shedding those shoulds of what everybody else thinks we should be doing and feeling, and just really coming home to you and what you feel on the inside. What does that inner radiance want to express in your life, and getting support around that. So even if it's not my support, I encourage you guys, go out there and research other coaches that do this kind of stuff. I'm not like everybody, so not everybody's going to fit with me. I'm a lot different in the sense that I'm kind of a little I'm out there, and I'm really into the self-expression and tying in the bigger meaning of self-care and how it benefits you. Because a lot of self-care coaches will just kind of teach you how to create, self-care rituals in your life, which are fun, and that's the foundation. But taking it to the next level, that's really what I'm all about, is showing you how you can reach those big, meaningful dreams and goals in your own life. So, all right, well, I think that's enough said, and I don't see any more comments coming through. So I love you guys. I will see you back here next Wednesday, July 1st, same time, same place, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And send me an email if you're feeling like you want to explore Her Radiance Revealed, my 6-month program that also incorporates the 3-day retreat in the mountains. Again, my email is jessica@jessicatomlinson.com. I really hope to hear from you, ladies. Mwah. Lots of pleasure, lots of love. Have a great night.